And that's why no two dementias are ever the same, because it depends on what part, right down to, millimetres of the part of the brain that's being affected. Yeah, many people think that dementia is simply memory loss. That's not the case. Dementia actually affects every part of the body, and it is damage to the brain. Your brain is being damaged by this disease. There are types of dementia where actually memory loss doesn't appear to happen. So, although they're less common, that can happen. So, it's far more than just memory loss. It can change mood, it can change emotion, it changes perception. All those parts of the brain that can be affected by damage are, in various types of dementia, affected by the damage. So, and that's why no two dementias are ever the same, because it depends on what part, right down to millimetres of the part of the brain that's being affected, which is what changes what symptoms people are going to produce. So another thing I often hear is that people with dementia can't read. Well, there's a lot of people who read perfectly well with dementia, in fact probably better than I do. So it's a misconception to think that any of these things are standard. There is no standard. That's the trouble with this disease, is there's no yardstick to hold up and say, you're going to get this symptoms then, and then you're going to move to this, and that's not the case. It all comes down to what part of the brain is being affected, and how that individual personality, how the individual coping mechanisms come into play. All those sorts of things also impact. Your own personality impacts on how it's going to happen, how you're going to cope with what's happening, how you're going to compensate. Some people with dementia can communicate very effectively, or appear to, and then when you find out that there's all these fabricated stories within their conversation that sound very plausible, but they've filled the gaps in themselves. They've got a good command of language and they just fill the gaps in as they go. So there's all these different areas that can be affected, but you've got to remember that first and foremost, dementia is a disease where brain damage is occurring. It's a very physical thing. The damage to the brain is occurring, so therefore the symptoms produced are in line with whatever the damage is that's being caused. So, when people play up, it's one of the things I hear quite often, playing up or being naughty, or they're not playing up or being naughty, or any more than any of us can at times do things we shouldn't do. But for the greater part, it's actually their disease impacting on them and causing that change of response from what we would class as normal. Their responses are not the same, because the disease has actually impacted on that part of the brain that is responsible for those responses. So this is their disease, and this is what we have to manage, and we have to help them to get around whatever the issue is and resolve it themselves so they can move on. So it's a very complex disease, and it also affects all the other organs of your body, in the end anyway. So the brain affects an awful lot of your body also. So it impacts on every facet of your life. It's not just about memory. And the degree of memory loss varies significantly between people. So although short-term memory loss is a very common a symptom, a lot of people do suffer short-term memory loss, but not everybody, and the amount of memory loss is variable depending on the disease. Yeah.